Welcome back to another episode of Questions with Crocker with me, Dr. Crocker. I'm an emergency veterinarian and I own a general practice in Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I like to talk about all things vet med. This podcast is based around your questions that you send me and also things that I just want to rant on and expand on off of social media. So we're going to get into it today. If you want to watch us, you can watch us on YouTube. If you want to listen, you can listen to us on Apple or Spotify. I appreciate you being here. I'm all alone this morning. And that is because my co-host, my husband Shane, is still in bed. It's actually a really early morning and we have had a busy couple of weeks. We actually have not been filming many podcasts, and that's because we've just been prioritizing time with each other and our family over the summer. We just got back from a trip in Costa Rica because it is our 19th wedding anniversary this year, which 19 years just seems crazy. I remember that one of the reasons I met and fell in love with Shane was I was talking to him about my hopes, my dreams, all the things that I have, and wanting to do in life when I was younger. And I said, I want to be a veterinarian. I wanted to be an equine vet at that time. I was like, it's going to be wild. It's going to be busy. And I really need a partner that supports that dream. And he looked at me dead in the eye and he said, most people just go to work. You actually have something you're passionate about, and I will always support that, and I will always support you in what you want to do. And he has really not strayed from that in 19 years. So I think I'm like all in my feelings because it was our anniversary, and obviously we're getting close to 20, which is a big one, but we have just really built a life that I love, and I love doing it with him. So I think he listens to these episodes, so he'll hopefully enjoy the little bit of shout out. But we do have a lot to get into today. These are shorter episodes, 25 to 30 minutes. So I wanted to make sure that I could cover everything. We are actually leaving again tomorrow for another trip. I think a lot of people wonder how I'm able to travel so much with working in the ER and owning a business. But one of the things that I really try to emphasize is, sorry, still waking up this morning. One, I've been a veterinarian for 16 years. And when I started out, I didn't get to travel as much. I didn't have the finances to do it. I didn't have the time to do it. But I've really built a career that is flexible and works for me. So my emergency shifts, I'm able to base them around travel that I have, speaking that I have, other work obligations, and I basically can put in for when I can work, and my shifts are put on those days. And then I own a hospital, but I don't actually work in it every day. I have 3 other doctors that work there full time. I'm able to cover for them when they have vacations. I actually go in and have days, which I absolutely love, where I just do surgery. I just do ultrasounds. I see a couple clients that I've actually known forever. And I really get to enjoy what I'm doing in the general practice hospital. But I have really structured things to be able to, I guess you say, work hard and play hard. And a lot of the emergency vets that I work with actually travel a ton. Our Dallas location where I work, we are able to batch shifts, so we don't have a regular set schedule. I think some people really thrive around a set schedule. And honestly, if somebody wanted that, they could have that. We've had some doctors that had a set schedule, but most of us really like the flexibility and the ability to say, yeah, we want to work a ton of shifts during these 2-3 weeks. And then we want like a run of 5-7 days off. And that is the benefit of working emergency. Yes, the work is hard. Yes, it's long hours. It can be really stressful. But one of the main benefits is the fact that you can take off and travel a little bit easier when you want to. So I did find out recently I'm working Halloween. That's tough as a mom. But again, the benefits and the flexibility of the schedule make it worthwhile, even when you sometimes are working days you don't want to be working. So we are going to leave for another trip as a family. Very excited. Last one before the summer is over and school craziness starts. We actually are switching schools for my son this year. I would be shocked if he didn't interrupt this podcast in a little bit. He's going to a new school. My daughter's going to be in middle school. She's 13 going on 21. So life is busy. Life is fun. But it's been good. I'm a little tired right now because I just came off an ER overnight. I did get some sleep last night, which is great, but it's always hard to like reset. But I saw a couple cases that were good cases. We actually have our nerd doctors starting in our Dallas location. So there's 6 nerds, which nerd stands for new ER doctor. I think it's a really fun acronym. And they are starting at our Dallas location. They're paired with a senior doctor for the first 4 months of their training. And then they start to do paired practice where they're paired with each other with a senior doctor still present, but they have more and more like independence and autonomy. So I was with Dr. Wallace. She's one of our new doctors. She is amazing. It's always hard your first couple overnights to figure everything out, know how your body's going to handle being up all night. So I really enjoy kind of helping give tips and tricks for that, teaching them how to be really efficient on overnight, how to handle things because eventually you're on your own. And we had a really, really good time. It was a slow and steady shift, which it's been chaos. So I was happy it was slow enough that we could work on how to work the computer program and have a couple cases that she could shadow and kind of listen to spiels on. And then we actually had a fair amount of procedures. So she got to unblock a cat, she got to do a lac repair, and then we did an emergency C-section together. And it was a really good case because when dogs come in with dystocia in the ER, it is tough. It is tough emotionally on the team, on the owner. The poor dog is, really struggling. You want to help. Quite often, these are financial situations. So either people bred a dog, but they didn't really know what they were getting into, and they don't have the resources to get them a C-section, or people are backyard breeders, essentially, and they are living off these puppies. And so it can be intense when you are trying to help the mom dog, but also have these puppies that is somebody's livelihood. And we have had a fair amount of drama sometimes around emergency C-sections. So when we got the call initially from the owner, I really didn't know how it was going to go. And I told Dr. Wallace, this will be a good case, but you just have to prepare yourself emotionally. And I think she was kind of shocked, why do I need to prepare myself? And I just told her these cases really go one of two ways. Either the owner is great and wonderful and just wants to help the mom, and we present what we need to do and we're able to do surgery, move forward quickly, save the puppies, spay the mom, everybody's happy, and they leave. Or it is a grueling couple of hours of trying to educate with kindness and really just take the time to find the finances and, again, help the mom, hopefully spay her, have a good outcome with the puppies, and then they go home. But it can really be a lot to deal with. And this one was a lot. The dog was precious. Her name was Yams. She was a big girl. She had 7 puppies in her. She was a micro bully. So she did look like a sweet potato. Her name was amazing for her. And she waddled in, and this poor girl, you could tell she was so uncomfortable. So when a dystocia comes in, so dystocia means they're not able to have the babies. When a dystocia comes in, there's a couple things you check pretty quickly. So you assess the mom, see how she looks. Sometimes these guys can get low glucose, they can get low calcium, they can actually be anemic. So there's a lot of things that you kind of look at. And then you also assess the fetuses. And so you do that with an ultrasound. You put an ultrasound on the belly and you try to get a couple heart rates. And you want the heart rates, I say, to be over 180. A lot of people say 170. But most often I'm looking for those heart rates of those babies to be 180 to 220, which is pretty freaking high. But if they're lower than that, if I'm seeing 160, 140, that does mean that those babies are in distress. And it does mean you need to get really quickly into the ER for an emergency C-section if you want to try to save them. Now, if the babies are stable, which thank goodness these ones were, so the heart rates were really high, then you have some more time to kind of work through the case. So we did take an x-ray. We could see there were 7 to 8 babies. They were really smashed in there. So the counting was a little tricky. But based on her pelvic measurements and how many babies were in there and how long she'd been in labor, we did recommend an emergency C-section. It did take a little bit of time to come up with finances. We were actually getting close to the morning, and so we were looking at some low-cost options for him. But eventually, he was able to come up with the money, and we were able to proceed for the emergency C-section. We had a great outcome. We had 7 babies, and they all lived, which is always really fun. But it was a wild surgery. Like, Dr. Wallace, I don't think she really knew what to expect, but she jumped in, she assisted me, she was great. But as soon as I went to pull out the right uterine horn, it pretty much just split in two. It was so worn out, friable. There's so many big puppies in there. And so it split in two, and literally puppies just started like spilling out of this uterine horn. So we're grabbing puppies, we're handing them off as fast as we can to our team that's resuscitating. And the team was like, "Could you give us a little notice?" And I was like, "I didn't have notice. I literally touched it, it exploded, and now we're getting puppies out." So we did that, and then we were able to go over to the other horn and open it closer to the uterine body, remove all the puppies from that side. But at that point, we had a uterus that was pretty torn up. And are you able to suture the uterus? Absolutely. It's a pretty hardy organ, in my opinion, but based on the dog and based on the breed and the struggle she had had, the great thing about our ER is owners can be present. And so this owner was actually helping resuscitate puppies, was close by. So I was able to step out of the ER and explain to him the trauma that the uterus was showing, and that I really felt like it would benefit her in the future to be spayed in this moment and not try to suture the uterus closed and, just have her recover, because I really didn't think that she needed to have a litter again in the future. I thought that she might not make it, puppies might not make it. It would be best for her health. The owner said absolutely. He wanted her to be fine in the long run. He wasn't planning to breed her anyways again, so we spayed. This is something that is the best outcome, right? We got live puppies, we spayed. Everything went well. The dog went home happy. Owner was happy. We were able to help. This owner was a very tall man, and he was crying and thanking us for helping him and helping this dog. So overall, we all left, and even Dr. Wallace said, I don't get emotional that often, but I actually am really emotional that we were able to do that and we were able to help. And it's kind of wild to me because I take that moment and that feeling and I hold it so close to me, because a lot of times in the ER, there is a lot of trauma, and it can be really, really hard and difficult to work there and to deal with. But those moments where you really feel like you helped, those are the moments that I think get us through those 13-hour shifts that are really tough. And when we deal with owners that aren't grateful and aren't kind, like owners like that, you really have to remember it and tuck it away as a moment of, I did this, this is why I'm here. Now, the interesting thing to me is there are a lot of people in our industry that feel very strongly that you should not do an emergency C-section unless the owner will agree to spay. And this is going to anger a lot of people because I've said it before and it's angered people. But I will absolutely do an emergency C-section without the owner agreeing to spay prior to surgery. Period. And the reason is, if you don't do the surgery, this mama dog will die and her puppies will die. And I personally think that our veterinary oath does not include, I'm going to have a moral line in the sand that the owner has to make this decision, or if they don't, I'm okay with the fact that this pet will pass away. I don't believe that at my core. I also have a really, really high percentage of dogs that I take in for an emergency C-section that I spay. I would say it's 90%. Very few do I not spay them. And that is because the owners appreciate the fact that I'm not judgmental, that I educate them with kindness, that I explain to them what I'm worried about. And a lot of times when I get into surgery, that uterus is compromised. There is something wrong. It's already ruptured. And so we do have to spay at that point in time. And since the owner's there and they can see what I'm talking about, it's an easier conversation to have. So I just think that having a line that's that black and white, and I know some places actually that is part of the protocol that the leadership or the hospital has put in place. And so maybe a doctor and their team don't have the ability to say what they will and won't do. But when I'm sitting there and I'm looking at a dog that is struggling and is in labor and is having a hard time, I could never do this job and sleep at night knowing I said, no, I won't help because the owner wouldn't spay the dog. And that's just me. But a lot of times when I play out the scenario with people who say, yes, that is how I do things, they don't actually have these conversations with the owners. They send their team member in, they send a vet tech in to have the discussion. And those people then have to deal with the frustration of the owner, the anger of the owner, and really they don't play out to be good situations. So I think the way that I do it works. I think I'm able to help more dogs the way that, I educate. And I really think that it's our job to do things that way and not to approach them with judgment. But that's just me. I'm happy to work somewhere that does support me making those decisions as a doctor and doesn't dictate the medicine that I practice overall. So I was happy to help Yams and her 7 puppies, happy to educate this owner, and just have a really great outcome also for the nerd, because it was her first case and it could have gone the other direction dramatically. Speaking of nerds, I got a lot of questions from new nerds about what are some tips that you would say for them starting this program. This is a 6-month intensive ER training program. So the tips that I would give them are, 1, to be really present and to be brave and ready to jump in. It is a hard program. It's intense. You really have to take care of yourself when you're not in the hospital, to rest up, to eat well, to exercise so that you can be present when you're on shift. But they work hard. They work long hours. They have a lot of schooling and things that they have to do outside of the hospital. So really try hard to take care of yourself so when you're on shift, you can really be available to learn and soak up as much as possible. I also think it's good to ask a ton of questions. I will use an example. So I had one nerd, and this was years ago, and normally in the beginning of the shift or beginning of the first couple, weeks, they shadow you. They kind of do the exams with you, you talk through cases, and then they start to do the cases on their own, but you are present too. You're listening to their conversations with owners, you're giving feedback, you're doing physical exams after them, you're talking through things, you're helping them with ultrasounds, things like that. So it's a very collaborative experience. And I had one nerd that it was my first shift with them, and I went to follow them on a case, and they stopped me and they were like, I would prefer you not to follow me. I think it undermines my credibility. And I was like, oh, I get that, but we do this all the time. And I think because people see Grey's Anatomy, they don't really question the fact that 2 doctors are coming over and we're talking about the case, and that I'm present too. I know how to introduce myself and make it not weird. And I promise you, it'll be helpful because if I can listen to the way you're communicating, it will actually help me give you feedback. And they're like, no, I don't want you to do it. It makes me uncomfortable. And I didn't really know what to do in that situation because really as a senior doctor, I could have said, I don't care. This is part of the training and I'm going to be present to listen to you. But I really didn't feel like that would have worked out well. And I kind of wanted to see what would happen with having that sort of attitude in this type of training program. And so I sat back and said, cool, okay, I'm here. We can talk about it afterwards. And this person really had a lot of confidence in their self, and really did not take a lot of feedback from the senior doctors or ask for help. And I would say that they didn't get as much out of this program as they could have, and they struggled more with certain things than they would have if they had allowed us to help them and to be more collaborative. So I do think the new nerds need to understand that the program's structured a certain way to really help you. It's not structured for you to feel like you're not able to do the job, but it is because I think personally the hardest part of being an emergency doctor is communication. It is having really tough conversations about finances, about end of life, about why you recommend certain things with owners and really getting them on board with that. And I think if we can help with that and we can watch and model and have conversations about that, you will be a better doctor faster the more you take that in. So I really encourage the nerds to kind of use the program to the fullest extent by letting the senior doctors interact with you as much as possible and be a part of your process, because that's really how it's supposed to work. I do think too that doing as much hands-on as possible is great. And so the other night we had, it was a slower night, and so we had a swing doctor on, and that doctor actually had a blocked cat and had a laceration repair. And so because I didn't have a ton of cases going on, my nerd went and unblocked the cat and did the laceration repair. So even though they weren't technically on together at that time, she jumped in, she did the things. It was very cool to see them interacting. And I still was able to be a part of it. So I do think that just looking around, seeing what's available and getting as much hands-on experience is also really, really important for the program. And ultimately, it is a hard program, but I really think that if you are going to be an emergency doctor, that the nerd training program is one of the best programs that will make you comfortable when you get out. We all cut surgeries at Veg, and I think that experience alone of having a lot of surgical, interaction, being able to watch, being able to do, being assisted, really helps you get confident and good at your skills. There's also things like spay neuter locally that will offer up for the nerds to go do. So again, just increasing the skills, improving them, giving a lot of opportunity. So those would be some of my tips. I know that was really long. I'm sure that my podcast producer can cut it down into a nice little snippet for me to put on social media. But if you are a nerd, if you're struggling in any way, if you need anything, you can always reach out. This program is a great program, and hopefully it is going to help you become the best ER doctor that you can be. Okay, a couple other things that I want to get into, and then I have a couple more questions that were submitted to me. One of the big things that I wanted to make sure to talk about today is very, very excited. One of my really good friends, Adam Greenbaum, he actually started Whisker Cloud, which is one of the main website producers, I guess, for veterinary medicine. He's amazing. He's an entrepreneur. He is so insightful, but he just started a new website and a new company called lovebaxter.com. And really, he had retired after he started Whisker Cloud and sold the company. But what happened is he had a wonderful Boston Terrier Baxter, and he loved this dog, and he unfortunately lost him. And it was a very traumatic ending, the way that he lost Baxter and just kind of how quickly he declined. And what Adam found in that experience and through that was there wasn't a lot of great resources out there for pet owners around grief, loss, all the options for, after you lose a pet, the things you can do, for all the support groups that are out there, but they're very scattered. And so Adam, in his grief and in his love for his dog, actually created a website, lovebaxter.com. And this website has so many amazing resources for pet owners that are either experiencing anticipatory grief, so they know they're going to lose their pet, or they have lost a pet. And so I asked him what would be the specific things that he would want me to share about this website and why it should be something that, one, vet med people are aware of, because I think we don't have enough time to talk about grief the way that we should and pet loss the way we should sometimes. And so having a place to direct pet owners, I think, is really valuable. So he said, everyone experiences pet death, and this website has resources for all stages, any age of dog, a chronic or terminal illness, or if your pet passes away immediately. A lot of veterinarians and grief specialists have input on this platform, and so it's built on a ton of research. So this is not just him talking about the loss of his dog. This is actual research that's been done on grief, on loss, and ways that you can help pet owners to work through it. It exists to educate both pet parents and pet professionals so we can all communicate better and help pets live longer and be more prepared at the end. So it is really something that you can let owners know about, that they can look, that you also can go and figure out a little bit more what is out there for support of people that are experiencing pet loss. And then he ended it with, it's the world's largest end-of-life platform and has hundreds of articles. There'll be over 1,000 soon. It has a pet professional directory. It has an in-house grief support and an incredible pet memorial store. And he's right about that. I went and looked, and all the things that are available if you have lost your pet and ways you can memorialize them. I didn't even know some of them were out there. And really, after looking at his website, I feel like I've done a little bit of a disservice to my pet owners that I've tried to help, through pet loss, because there is a lot more out there that I could be telling them about and I could be directing them to. So definitely encourage both pet owners and vet med professionals to check out lovebaxter.com. And it is something that is amazing for educating us in vet med, but also helping pet owners through pet loss. Okay, we're almost done. Thanks for sticking it out with me. I feel like talking by myself for so long is tough, but we're making it happen. So I had a couple people send me some questions. @Andrea_G21201 asked, is there any advice for second year vet students that are interested in the NERD program? So the reason that she's asking is because the NERD program is a pretty extensive application. We get a lot of applicants, and it is something that a lot of people start thinking about early on because you have to get recommendation letters. They do look at your grades. They look at your experience. So there are some tips that I can give you, Andrea. One is I highly recommend that you visit a veg hospital and you try to do externships there. I do think that immersing yourself in the culture and in the experience of what we offer at Veg is important, and being able to speak to that during your NERD interview is also really important. At the end of every externship that we see students on, we actually give feedback on them. And one of the questions that they ask us at the end is, would you want to work with this person? And so, if you go and do an externship and everyone says, yes, we love them, they're great, we want them to be a part of this hospital, that's something that's extremely valuable when you're applying to be a NERD. And during your interview, you want to really be able to speak to not only why you want to be an emergency doctor, but why do you want to do it at Veg? What is it about maybe the open concept ER or doing surgery or the training program that really speaks to you? And I think using those specifics actually gives you a little bit of a leg up. Another thing is, the locations that you end up with for your training and where you're going to work, being flexible with that is really important too. So kind of thinking and starting to think about, where would you want to end up? Is there already a Veg there? Are they planning to put one there? You can go on the website. It actually shows where they're planning to put hospitals and where they're already located. Veg.com does. So I would start thinking about that, because again, the more flexible you are, and if you're willing to go open a new hospital, that can be really valuable if you're applying for the NERD program. Keep your grades up. Make sure you have good recommendations from hopefully emergency vet med professionals going into it, and good luck on your application. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. Oh, I thought this was good. @Avery.Leslie98 said, why did you want to be a veterinarian and not a vet tech? And I would tell you, Avery, it is because even though it is stressful sometimes to be the veterinarian, I would rather be in charge of making the decisions and have the stress of the outcomes of those decisions versus working for somebody else. And I think ultimately that's one of the main reasons. Another one is I really love surgery. And one of the few things that vet techs can't do that we can do is surgery. And I think I would have had a hard time always assisting and not ever being the one actually doing the surgery. So there was never a thought in my mind of not becoming a veterinarian. I decided very early in life, and I am very, very happy that I went this route. I think I've talked long enough by myself. You're probably tired of my voice, but I am appreciative of you being here. If you want to leave a review, you can do it at Questions with Crocker. You can listen to us again on Apple or Spotify, watch us on YouTube, send me any questions that you have. I'd be happy to answer them next time, and have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for being here.